Rock 100.5 KATT. I am Cameron Buchholtz, and the KATT presents the Trinity of Terror tour live here in OKC tomorrow night at the Criterion, featuring Black Veil Brides, Motionless in White, and Ice Nine Kills. And right now, I am here with Black Veil Brides frontman Andy Biersack. What's going on, man?
Happy to be here. I am in Wichita today, and there is severe storms warning. So the outside of the bus looks a little bit like that movie Twister right now. That the sky is dark and the winds are swirling. So hopefully everything is okay. We make it to OKC tomorrow.
I'm sure you'll be fine. I think the same thing is happening here tonight. I think as we put it, you have to be weather aware, is what our weathermen constantly say.
Okay. All right. I'm always trying to be weather aware, I think, in my life.
It's just it's the nature of the beast of living in this part of the country this time of year, I guess.
So I've heard, my guitar player Jinx is a big history buff. So anytime we're in any place, he likes to look up the history of any place that we're in. And we spent like 25 minutes looking up the history of this part of the country in terms of storms, and found out some very scary things about the history of tornadoes in this area of the country. So we are prepared. We're weather aware, as you might say. Gotcha.
And I'm sure the venues have shelters or something. We'll be fine.
Sure. We'll rock and roll. We'll rock through it. It's all good.
Indeed. But now, and it's good to have you back in Oklahoma City tomorrow night, because I think you guys were supposed to be here like 6 months ago within this moment. And then COVID decided that shouldn't happen, which is, again, just part of what touring is these days. You just have to go on.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was the early part of the tour. It was obviously the first tour we had done in almost 2 years at that point. And I think we had done San Antonio, and we were just like really clicking, and we were so excited. And then unfortunately, CC got COVID. Some of the members of In This Moment got COVID. Members of the crew had just kept growing and growing. And we had to shut it down for a little while until we were able to come back. And then CC couldn't join us, so we did acoustic shows. You just try to get through it. But fortunately, this time around, to this point, we've been very fortunate in that everybody's been healthy. You deal with the regular sicknesses of being on tour, dealing with bus air and everything else, but no COVID present on this tour thus far, knock on wood. And we're ready to come back and play the show that we were meant to play 6 months ago.
Indeed, man. Yeah, hopefully we're kind of out of the woods when it comes to that sort of stuff. Hopefully, fingers crossed,
Yeah, let's hope so.
But now you guys are currently about a third of the way through this Trinity of Terror tour, which is kind of a rare triple co-headline bill. Like, talk to me how that is working.
It's really interesting because, when we first started talking about doing this tour, I think we as bands and the teams that we work with understood that this was an opportunity for, in many ways, 3 separate audiences to come together each night, in addition to people who are fans of all 3 bands. And I think early on, there was some hesitancy from, promoters and stuff, thinking, oh, someone who's a fan of this band is a fan of all 3 bands. And does this package, is it as big as we were kind of saying it would be?
Sure. Is it too much overlap?
Yeah. And what I think that, has been proven and what is true is, while there's certainly overlap and it's exciting for fans who are a fan of all 3 bands, each band has its own dedicated audience, and all of them are showing up every night. And the way that this tour works, where you've got the rotation of the 3 headline bands, each playing a full headline set, it makes it a very interesting experience. And also it gives every band an opportunity to vary the set list. The show can be a little different every night. It's been incredible. And all 3 bands get along so well, and we've just been having a great time. It is certainly something that on paper can be a very complicated thing, the idea of having 3 headliners on a tour. But, with the diligence of our crews and the bands themselves getting along so well, it's really just been a wonderful experience. And then you have situations like, a few nights ago, Chris from Motionless got sick and wasn't able to sing. You've still got the rest of the tour package that's there and able to perform. And Lil the Czar opening every night, and people have been really responding to them. And so it's been a really fantastic experience. And we, I guess it's fulfilling in the sense that we all knew that this would be what this tour is, and to get to go out there and see it every night and see such a huge response and these sold out shows and everything. It's just been, it's really nice to be able to know that we bet on ourselves, I guess, in a lot of ways, and it paid off for all 3 bands.
Nice. And it must be kind of weird for, all 3 of you to be, it's the first time probably any of y'all have gone on at 7:30 or whatever in a long time, if you're going first.
Well,
so what's funny?
What's funny is, I think I think we've all decided that in terms of energy, like that, the middle slot is the one where like everybody's at their peak energy.
Sure.
So it's sort of funny because you got the rotation, so you start to see the different parts of the night differently. When you're on a tour, back in the old days, if we were opening for, say, Avenged or Motley or any of these bands we tour with, we play at 6 o'clock every night or whatever, and then you've got the rest of the evening. With this, it's like you might play at 8 o'clock one night, and then you're getting off stage at like 1 a.m. the next day. You know what I mean? It's a wildly different thing. So you kind of we kind of say it's like a little mini Warped Tour in that way, because you wake up like, oh, what time do we play today?
Yeah, that's awesome. It's gonna be kind of fun. And but I'm assuming the crowd, even if you're getting off at 1 a.m, I'm assuming most of that crowd sticks with the whole show.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You never know when you've got a long show like that, where you've got a half-hour set from an opening band, then you've got 3 full hour-long headline sets. That's a lot of music for people to be taken in a venue. And whether you play first or last on the rotation, everybody's kind of noted that the audience enthusiasm and energy is just the same throughout.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And now you guys are out in support of the latest record, Phantom Thread, which I think is about 5 months old now, almost exactly, I think. And how has this cycle been? I mean, obviously it's very weird with the COVID stuff, but aside from that, how has this record kind of gone out on these live shows?
It's been interesting because, unlike every other record we've ever released, the totality of the setup for this album was done before we could tour. We did ostensibly, we've done, these are the shows that would kind of follow that record cycle, but this record has been in many ways around for a lot longer than a normal record cycle would be. So we're almost at a position where in the normal historical, way that you would set up a record, this would be the end of a record cycle, whereas we're now only on the second tour of it. And it's fun to be able to start to filter in new songs in a way that maybe you couldn't normally. By the second tour in a record cycle, normally those would be songs that the audience doesn't know yet, but because this album has been around and the singles have been around so long, you've got songs that, we do Crimson Skies Every Night, which was a later single that came out right before the record came out. And the whole audience, the people that know the song, they're singing along to every word. And that's a pretty unique thing because we're doing multiple songs from a new record in a show. But the response has been amazing. I think I'll say this, as much as I enjoy kind of everything that we got to do because of how unique the situation was, I look forward to the next record being able to kind of go to a more traditional format of making a record, releasing it not taking a year plus to produce the record itself because of supply chain issues and all that kind of stuff. So
sure.
It's an exciting time to be able to say this record is out there, you can go get it, people are liking it. It's also an interesting time because we completed the record in like June of 2020 or something, and then we had to wait so long to release it. So it's been amazing, and the response has been incredible, and we're looking forward to we're gonna have another single out soon and another music video for the single, and so there's a lot coming up.
And so it sounds like then you guys might be looking ahead to the next record maybe sooner than what would normally be the case.
Yeah, we did about 2 records of material because we had so much time. So as has been noted by just about everybody, the pandemic gave everybody the gift of time. And so, we did about a record and a half when we did Phantom Tomorrow. So we've got all this material that, it remains to be seen how we want to release it. We could go the traditional, like, ultimate version of the record route, or we could release it, single by single, whatever it is. But we've got 8, 9 songs that are just, we believe, record quality songs that we're just waiting to see how we want to release them. So it's an interesting time. I think we'll probably more than likely start releasing new material soon, but in smaller bite-sized formats so that we can just keep, adding to this record.
And now, are you someone that sort of believes in the album format as it has always been, or are you kind of someone who's like, oh, well, now in the digital age, it doesn't matter. You can release singles, you can release EPs, you can do whatever you want?
I think it kind of is a little bit of both. I think I would never want to be in a position where we'd never made records again, because I like that format of this is an album that represents a time in your career or thought process that are artistic ideas. But to also be able to utilize the idea of, oh, we wrote this song and recorded it, and now people can hear it 2 weeks later. You know what I mean? Like there's real artistic joy to being able to just have the immediacy of now you can hear this. So I would imagine that moving forward, we would be trying to utilize both formats, where you make an album that has all of the blood, sweat, and tears of a record, And then intermittently, you can release material just as you do it because the world allows for that now. So why not take advantage of it?
Sure. And you guys are on a label that is very forward thinking in a lot of those ways. In that it's not even just a record label, as you're involved in other things than that in terms of Paradise City and such. So I'd imagine they would be down with almost any way you guys would want to do it.
Yeah. And, we've been really since the beginning because we're a band that was so, there was such a, I guess by necessity, there was such a need to be able to build our own kind of, steer our own ship, so to speak. And it's not a criticism of Universal, but we were with Universal for about 10 years. And being a hard rock band on a major label that also has Taylor Swift and Drake and all these other people, we were kind of, we were treated well, but we were left to our own devices to figure out promotion of a record, how to market stuff, all that stuff. So we learned quite a bit about how to make your own, kind of the world surrounding a record. And so we've been fortunate that, with Sumerian and being able to say, okay, this is what we'd like to do. And we have the wherewithal to be able to build those plans to say, this is how we'd like it to be released and done. And really at the end of the day, the best thing we can have as a band is collaborative partners that allow for us to make those things real and not just an idea that we're bouncing around in the studio.
Gotcha. And now, aside from music stuff, let's talk about your acting just a bit. What going forward? Do you have any of that on the table happening this year? I mean, is there going to be a Paradise City season 2? Do we know yet?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's in the kind of the contract negotiation phases with getting locations and all that stuff. But to my knowledge, it's moving forward. I think early days. I can't speak to it. It's sort of funny saying that I'm someone who's very involved in the process of my records being released and that kind of stuff, whether it's with the band or solo stuff. I have absolutely nothing to do with the making of Paradise. So people ask me questions all the time about what's going to happen, and I'm just an actor in the show. I have no way of determining any of that. But I'd like to think that I'll be back for it if they want me. And as far as me on a personal level, later this year, I've got a couple horror movie projects that I've committed to that I'm going to hopefully be doing. Obviously, with pandemic and everything still existing in terms of locations and stuff, other things. But I've been very lucky that stuff like Paradise City has allowed me the opportunity to do other things. So looking forward to doing that this year. And hopefully you'll see Johnny Faust on TV again soon.
Nice. And that must be kind of freeing to be able to not have to worry about all the nuts and bolts of how it's made and just be able to step in and just do the job that's presented to you and not have the pressure that maybe you do with a Black Veil record. Sure.
I mean, I guess there's an ebb and flow with it because when we're making a Black Veil record, like there's no part of that I don't understand or I'm not familiar with. I've been Andy in Black Veil Bride since I was 16 years old. So that's a very comfortable position for me to be in. Playing another character, another person, going into a field that artistically I don't have as much experience in. It's thrilling, but it can be daunting. So learning, you just don't want to embarrass yourself. You don't want to go out there and be like the rock band guy who can barely do what they're doing. And,
right.
The goal, I think, of anybody who gets put in that position, at least for me anyway, is you want to be able to show up to work and not embarrass yourself and to strive to be on par with the other professionals who were there so that you're not dragging the proceedings down.
Sure. And I'm sure in many ways, Ash has felt the same way through that process, because from what I've read and heard, it seems like he's kind of maybe been learning that along the way too.
Yeah, I mean, I think, whether it was Ash or Ben or any of us who were kind of new to that field, it's about the application of your like, I suppose, artistic interests, your more than anything, hard work and diligence. And I think that's where you see someone like Ash who didn't have the experience before, but did what it was necessary. He directed films, he wrote things, he did things to get his foot in the door, and now is able to be on a larger scale and do all this bigger stuff. So I think it was particularly American Satan when we all kind of started on this path together. It was very much, we all want to make sure that we're not, we're showing up and we're kicking ass and we're not the people who are just the rock people who are, trying to act or whatever.
Right. Well, awesome, man. Well, Andy, I very much appreciate the time and stoked for the show tomorrow night. And good luck with the tornadoes tonight.
Thank you. I hope we see it tomorrow and we don't get caught in Twister.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be fine. I think if you see a flying cow or whatever, it's a story to tell on stage.
Perfect. Yeah, there you go. I'll use it as banter.
Indeed, man. Well, thanks a lot, and we'll just see you tomorrow night, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Talk to you later.
Indeed.